Good morning. My name is Mari Ponce Vargas. I'm the faculty secretary and also one of the advisors for the Physical Therapist Assistant Program. I'm going to go over the program requirements as to what you would need in order for you to apply to the PTA program. Do we have any majors in PTA? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. What did you all think of the video that you just saw? You see yourself doing that in the future? Okay. Here at South Texas College, we have the Physical Therapist Assistant Program, which is an Associate of Applied Science degree. You do have to apply to the program, which means you have to take certain prerequisites before you can do so, okay? First of all, what we would require is that you be TSI complete, okay? As long as the college says you're TSI complete, either through your tax, you actually took the TSI, or you took the acuplacer, or you finished all your remedials and are considered to be complete, then we will accept it, okay? The PTA program requires the ACT plus writing exam, okay? That's an exam that's only offered certain times a year. You have to sign up for it via the internet through the ACT webpage. And make sure that when you do sign up for it, it's ACT plus writing. And you sign up for it at act.org. Okay? Normally in the fall semester, the ACT is offered in September, October, and December. Then in the spring, it's offered in February and April. Okay? If you are lacking the Intro to Physical Therapy course and want to take it next spring and have not taken your ACT, your next opportunity to take it would be this December. So make sure you register for it as soon as you can, okay? For ACT, you're testing for reading, English, science, math. You need to score, as you see on the screen, a 16 minimum score on each individual area, okay? Of course, it's going to have to be higher in order for your composite to be a 19 is what we require, okay? 19 composite is what we require, and a 6 on your writing. Your scores must be current within the last 5 years, okay? Let's say, for instance, you take your ACT, you score that 19 composite, but your writing is lower than a 6. You will need to retake it again because the program will not accept it, okay? Or vice versa. You got a 6 on your writing, but your composite was lower than a 19. Then you would need to retake your ACT again. Okay. Whenever you sign up for your ACT and you get your results, bring them in to me. I will verify them and I will let you know you've met the requirement or not. Okay? Any questions on that? Okay. The prerequisite for the program are courses that you have to take prior to you applying. Okay? For us, we require Anatomy and Physiology 1, Medical Terminology, Interpersonal Communications, Composition, and Intro to Physical Therapy. These first 4 you can take without our permission, because as long as you're considered to be TSI complete for whatever is required for each course, you can take it. Intro to Physical Therapy, you do have to come to me. You do need to bring me your ACT scores so that I can get you into the class. It's a first come, first served basis, so the sooner you bring your scores to me, the better chance you're going to have in getting a slot to take the course the following semester. Okay? Intro to Physical Therapy is offered as a 7-week course. It's a mini-mester. Typically, our schedules are like Monday through Thursday, like from 2:30 in the afternoon to 5:30 in the afternoon, every day for 7 weeks, and then you're done, okay? It's offered like that in the fall, and it's offered like that in the spring. There's 3 other courses that we require also. They're not prerequisites, they're what we call supporting courses. I strongly recommend that if you're trying to apply to our program, you have the first 5 that I mentioned, and then these 3 others I'm about to mention, okay? That's Anatomy and Physiology 2, Lifespan Growth and Development, and your Humanities elective. Now, the PTA program is very specific as to what humanities electives they will accept, okay? They will only accept Intro to Humanities, Logic, Philosophy, or Ethics, okay? So when you sign up for Humanities, make sure it's one of those courses. Any questions on the supporting courses that we require? No? Okay. Taking College Success for Healthcare, it's not a requirement for our program. We have it as an option, but we give you extra points if you take it and you pass it with a B or better. Okay, so if you're taking College Success right now and you pass it with a B or better and are applying to our program, you will get an extra point on your application. Okay? Another requirement that we have is volunteer work. You need a minimum of 50 hours volunteer work in physical therapy, meaning that you would need to do a minimum of 25 hours in a hospital or nursing home setting under the supervision of a physical therapist or physical therapist assistant. Then you would do another 25 hours at an outpatient rehab clinic with a physical therapist or physical therapist assistant. For those of you that are interested in our program, have you all looked at our volunteer forms already? No? Okay. Can I log into? Okay. The volunteer forms are listed on our Nursing and Allied Health webpage. Okay, this is the Nursing and Allied Health webpage that gives you information about all the programs that we offer here at this division. Since we're talking about physical therapists, you would click on the Physical Therapist Assistant Program. Okay. Under Program Resources, you will find volunteer forms. Okay. Now these are the forms that you will need to print out and you have to take to that facility that you're doing your volunteer work at. Okay, it's a very simple form, 2-page form. The front page is basically your information, which is giving us your name, your student ID, your address, what was the name of the facility that you went to, who was your supervising therapist, what dates did you do your volunteer work, how many hours did you complete. Then you're going to let us know what type of facility it is, what type of patients you observed, and so forth. Okay? At the very bottom, it says, please comment the benefits of physical therapy interventions for the patients you observed. Make sure you document that well. Okay? Because part of your selection is they would look at this. The people that are in the selection committee are going to look at this to see how well you documented. I've received forms that say, with physical therapy, the patient got better. Is that a good explanation? Obviously not, okay? So make sure that you document this well, okay? Now, the back of the form is what the therapists are going to fill out, okay? This is basically your recommendation letter to us from the therapist. And they're looking at certain things. They're looking at listening skills, verbalization, interest, behavior, initiative. They're going to give you a score, 0 being poor, all the way to 3 being exceptional, okay? Make sure you do well in these areas. They're going to let us know how many hours you volunteered, if they recommend you without reservations to the program, if they recommend you with reservations, if they do not recommend you at all, and if they're related to you or they're friends of yours, okay? If you know the therapist, then it's considered to be a conflict of interest, okay? So if I know a therapist at a certain clinic, I would not do my volunteer work there. I would go to another facility and do it, okay? So this is basically your recommendation letter to us. They will need to sign and date it and put their, if they're a PT or PTA license number, okay? If it's a name that we do not recognize, I will go into the system to verify that they are a PT or PTA. The reason why is because I've received forms that have a name and it says PT, but it wasn't a physical therapist, it was more like a personal trainer. Okay, we can't accept that. So make sure that when you go do your volunteer work, either at the hospital, nursing home, or outpatient clinic, that they are a PT or PTA. Okay? And when in doubt at the facility, you can come and ask me and I can tell you if that would be a good facility. I mean, if it's a facility that we will accept volunteer forms from. Okay? Any questions? Okay. I've received forms with very low scores on here. Okay? Reason being, the therapists make comments like, the student showed up to volunteer, but showed no interest. Student was here, but instead of paying attention to what we were doing during the therapy sessions, they were on their phone, okay? They didn't want to interact. They didn't seem interested. If you want to do PTA as your major and want to learn a little bit more about it, look at videos like the ones we showed you previously, okay? Go online and do like physical therapy, field, or what does a physical therapist assistant do, and so forth, to get a little bit more knowledge of what the PT field is, okay? When you take the course Intro to Physical Therapy, you're going to learn a lot more as to what our field is, okay? But if you're undecided as to what you want to do, I'd recommend you do volunteer work first. I honestly think that doing your volunteer work is going to be your biggest eye-opener, and it's really going to let you know if this is what you want to do, because you actually get to see what the therapists do, okay? Yes?
And when can we start?
You can do your volunteer work whenever you want, okay? We will have the forms for 2 years in our office. So let's say you do your volunteer right now and you're not applying till not this May, but the following May, we will keep them. Okay, so they're good for 2 years. You can do more than the required hours as well. You know, it's for your own knowledge, but all we require is a minimum of 50 hours, okay? And why we have you do a hospital or nursing home is because we want you to see what the setting is like with the adult setting. And then an outpatient rehab is typically more with children.
And if we take it to the hospital, would they accept us there to
What do you-
train us or?
I'm sorry?
If we take it to the hospital? would
If you
they-
decide to do the volunteer work at the
Yeah.
hospital?
Would they take us there?
Yes, you would just need to go to the rehab department and tell them, I'm a student at South Texas College, I'm trying to apply to the physical therapist assistant program, and part of the requirements are to do volunteer work. The majority of the clinics and hospitals and nursing homes know that we require this, so you shouldn't have any trouble. Okay, but there might be certain procedures that the hospital might ask you to do. They might want you to have a certain immunization, or maybe go through their volunteer program, orientation, and so forth. You will need to do that for them. Okay, that's totally nothing to do with us, but with the facility that you'll be doing your volunteer work. Okay?
Is it only for PTA and OT, or is it for any other program?
That I know of, PTA and OT are two that will require volunteer work. I don't know if nursing or any of those would allow it. Okay? Any other questions? Okay, then let me continue with our form. Oops. Okay, so these are the prerequisites for the program, okay? TSI complete, ACT plus writing with a required score of a 19 composite with a 6 on your writing. Make sure your ACT is within the last 5 years. That you take your prerequisites, which is anatomy 1, medical term, speech, composition, intro to physical therapy, anatomy 2, lifespan growth and development, humanities elective. If you take college success for healthcare, pass it with a B or better, it's an extra point for you, and the required volunteer work, okay? We also require that your cumulative overall GPA must be a 3.0 or higher, okay? And all prerequisite courses must be with a B or better, okay? And anatomy and physiology 1, the grade for that course must be within the last 5 years, okay? Any questions on that? All right. We accept applications once a year. Typically, we give them out in February, okay? They are due the last Friday in May, which will give the student enough time to complete the courses if they're taking them in the spring, okay? Once you turn in your application to us in May, we do go through a selection process. It's a 2-phase selection process. Phase 1 will consist of where you get your points based on your grades, based on your ACT, volunteer work, your grade for intro to physical therapy, and if you have any previous degrees, okay? And then if you're one of our top 30 students, then you come in for phase 2. And phase 2 will consist of an interview. It's about a 15 to 20 minute interview that is done from therapists that come in from the community and some of our faculty. And then we do a health aptitude exam, which is with PSB testing. It's a test that's testing for reading, English, science, math, and critical thinking. Okay, so based on how well you do on your interview and the score you get there and the score you get at the PSB test, we sum it up and we add it to your previous score, which included your grades and volunteer work and any extra points you could have earned. If you're one of our top 20 students, then you get accepted to the program. Okay, and I'll show you in just a minute how we earn your points and so forth for the application. Okay. All right, this is a sample application from last year. This is not the one we're going to use for this upcoming year. It could be something very similar. It's just a sample application. It's a very simple application. It's basically putting in your information. The first page is basically your name, address, your student ID, phone number, email. This, to me, is very important, okay, when you turn in your application to me. Especially your contact info, that you give me a correct email and that you give me a correct phone number. That's the way we will contact you when we're getting ready to select our students. I do all of our letters via email, okay? And then there's a checklist. Basically, are you a student here at STC? If you attended another university, did you submit your official transcripts for them to be evaluated? Do you have a cumulative GPA of a 3.0 that I mentioned earlier? Did you submit your TSI scores? Did you submit your ACT scores? Okay? You will need to submit a copy of your ACT scores with your application as well. Okay? And then I look to see are all your prerequisites or B or better. Our anatomy and physiology 1 is the grade within the last 5 years. Did you complete intro to physical therapy with a B or better? It is within 2 years. Okay? did you submit your 2 volunteer forms that we suggested? The one in the hospital or nursing home, and then the other one for the outpatient rehab clinic, okay? And then there's other forms that are attached to the application. I will check to see if they're there. When you turn in your application to me, I do sit down with you at that time and I review the application to make sure that everything is there. If there is something missing, I will give the application back to you, okay? And so that give you the opportunity to get everything you need and hand it in to me complete, okay? The deadline here, of course, is wrong because this is from last year, but it will be the last Friday in May, and it's usually by 5 o'clock. So this is how we select our students. Remember I said there's 2 phases. Phase 1 is we look at your grades, volunteer form points, and so forth. Okay? For every A, you get 4 points. Okay, so let's say I took anatomy this semester, I earn an A, it's gonna give me 4 points. And then we multiply those points with your grade times the credit for the course. In this case, it's 4, so it's gonna give me 16. Okay, so it's 4 points for my A times the credit, which is 4, it's gonna give me 16. Okay, if I were to have gotten a B is worth 3 points, so those 3 points are multiplied by the credit. In this case, it's 4, it's gonna give me 12. Okay, now let's say for instance, I took anatomy last spring and I had a C. Well, the program does not accept a C, so I'm gonna retake the course over again, okay? And I got an A this semester. So again, I get an A, which is 4 points, but because I repeated the course, they're gonna take off 1 point, okay? So in this case, it's gonna be 4 times 4, it's gonna give me 16 points, but because I repeated it, they're gonna do a -1, so then I'm gonna end up with 15. Is that clear? Okay. Each time you retake a class over again to better your grade, we take off a point. Okay? We take off a point off your final over here. Okay? So based on what grade you get, we will total up your scores. If you have A's on all your courses and it's you only took it 1 time, you can earn up to 108 points. Okay? Which is basically all A's 4.0. Okay? So what we do is we get your total grade points. So say you had all A's, it's going to be 108 points here. We're going to divide it by the amount of credits that you took. If you took all 8 courses, it's going to total up to 27. And then we divide, and it's going to give us a 4.0. Okay? Then that GPA grade point average, we're going to multiply that times the amount of courses that you took. In this case, if you took all 5 prerequisites and the 3 supporting courses, it's a total of 8. Okay? So 4 times 8 will give you 32. That's the maximum amount of points you can earn on your grades, and that's if you earn an A on all courses and you only took it once. Okay? So that's the max you can earn. Any questions there? Yes?
How would you, would you subtract anything if you end up dropping a course and then retaking?
Like a withdrawal?
Yeah.
No. It's only if you actually got a grade and then you retook it. Okay? So that's the most you can earn on your grades. Then we give you additional points. Remember I said you can earn extra points? If your ACT is above a 19, anything above a 19 is going to give you extra points on your ACT. So if your score a 20 to a 21, it's 2 points extra. 22 to a 23 is 3. 24 above is 4. Okay? If your ACT is above a 6, if you earn a 7, that's 2 points. Score 8 to 9, 3, 10 to 12, 4 points. So you can actually get ahead on points based on your ACT. Okay? When you take intro to physical therapy and it's the first time taking it, if you get an A in the class and it's a 95% or higher, you're going to get 4 extra points. Okay? Taking college success and passing it with a B or better will give you an extra points. If you have any previous degree, if you have a certificate in any of the nursing and allied health fields, if you're a CNA, EMT, pharmacy tech, and so forth, you can get half a point. Associate's degree would be in any field. You can earn up to 1 point. Bachelor's degree, 2 points. Master's degree or higher, 3 points. Okay? So these are all the extra points you could earn on your application. So my suggestion to you is if you take your ACT and you meet the minimum score required for the program, which is a 19 and a 6 in your writing, you met requirement to take the course, but you're probably going to hear me say, I'm going to suggest you go back and test again. And only so that you can have the opportunity of earning more points on your ACT. Okay? Any questions on this?
That's only for PTA, ACT,
And OT.
and OT?
So what we do here for phase 1 is we get the total points based on your grades. The max is 32. Additional points, the max you can earn is 16. And then the max on your volunteer forms, remember the volunteer forms that you all are going to take to the therapist, they're going to give you a score. The max you can earn is 6, and we total that up, that gives you 54. 54 points, the max of 54 points in phase 1. So let's say I have 80 students apply to the program. I'm going to rank the students based on their points from highest to lowest. Our top 30 students are going to be called in for phase 2. Again, phase 2 will consist of the interview and the health aptitude exam. Okay? So the interview, you can get a max up to 23 points, and the exam also 23 points. So the total between the two, phase 1 and 2, you can earn 100 points. Again, those 30 students are ranked from highest to lowest points, and our top 20 are the ones that get accepted. Okay? Any questions on that? Okay. If accepted to the program, if you're one of our top 20 students that get accepted to the program, receiving an acceptance letter does not automatically mean that you're automatically in the program. You still have to go through our clinical clearance and so forth, okay? Which means you have to do the background check, you have to get your immunization, CPR, first aid, drug screen, okay? Once you're cleared with our clinical affairs specialist, then you're officially a student in our program, okay? Any questions? No? Yes.
When you were talking about the CNA certification, does that have to be received here at STC?
No, as long as you submit a copy of your certificate, will be okay, your license. Okay. Once accepted to our program is a 2-year program. Okay. It's typically 4 semesters long. Our first semester of the program is lecture lab. Our schedule is typically from 8 to 5:30 every day. Okay. Our second semester is also lecture lab, again, typically Monday through Friday from 8 to 5:30. Then you're off for the summer. Some students come in the summer and they practice their skills, because when they come in the fall, they will be attending their first practicum, okay, which is their first clinical setting, okay? The third semester in the program is very unique. Our students are out the first 6 weeks of the program out in clinical, okay? Then they come back and they finish their other courses, which are 3, in like we call a mini-mester. Okay, so students come in on Saturdays to take one of the courses as well. Okay, and then the last semester in this program is your practicum 2 and practicum 3, and we have a capstone course. Capstone course is where we allow for companies to come in and recruit. This is where you will learn everything about interviews, about your state board exam, licensure, and so forth. Okay, you do have to pass an exit exam with the program in order for you to be considered a full graduate. Okay, once you graduate from the program, you do have to sit for your state board exam. You do have to pass it in order for you to get a license and become a PTA and practice anywhere in the state of Texas. Okay, so far every student that has graduated from our program that has taken the board exam has passed it. So we have a 100% passing rate when it comes to that. Okay, we only had one student about 3 years ago that went through the program, but she decided not to test. Okay, so she's the only one. I can't say she failed because she never tested. Okay, so she's just that one student. But all of our students that have graduated from the program in the past 16 years have passed their board, and they're working as PTAs. Some have liked the field so much that they furthered their education. We have 3 that are going into DPT school right now. One of them should be graduating, I believe, next December. So there are plans for advancements, except that it's either an Associate of Applied Science in Physical Therapy or a doctorate in Physical Therapy. There's nothing in between. Okay? Any questions? No? How many of you work? Okay, quite a few. How many of you are married? Have children? The reason I say this is because this is a very, very demanding program. It requires a lot of time, a lot of studying, of being in class, being away from home. Remember I mentioned you're typically in class from 8 to 5, so what does that mean? You have to leave home super early to be here by 8, okay, to be in class on time. 5:30, you leave. Does that mean your day ends at 5:30? Normally it doesn't. You still go home and you continue, you have to read, you have to prepare for the next day. So what I hear from our students that, that have graduated from our program is that they've been very successful in our programs because they've had a great support system at home. Okay, so if you're married, you have children, talk to them, let them know what it's going to be in the next 2 years, not only for our program, but for any of the nursing and allied health programs. It requires a lot of studying and dedication. Okay, if you're working, it's very hard to maintain even a part-time job once you're in our program. Okay, so those are things to consider so that when you apply to these programs, you can start, making note of how am I going to do in these 2 years if I'm going to be working. Okay, time management, and making sure that you've got your bills taken care of and so forth. Okay, any questions?